Uh, we hear that the soul is 1/10,000th the tip of a hair. Okay, so I've been curious about this. So I being of a scientific upbringing. My father was a scientist. My mother was a professor. I have a tendency to try to analyze things. So I was curious, well, what is exactly 1/10,000th? How big is that? So it's a little difficult because hairs, normal hair, and the ladies here will know about split ends, but the normal hair ends kind of abruptly. It doesn't go into kind of a tip like a pencil. It's not like, gradually coming down, but it just kind of cuts off, unless it splits, and then it splits into several pieces. So you could say the tip of a split hair. But if you just took the tip of a hair, normal hair, and I won't go through all the math, but you end up with something that is approximately 10 to 15 nanometers, which is like I think that's a billionth of a meter or something like that. And then I was like, well, how does that compare, say, to an atom? And atoms are generally considered to be 0.5 or so. So it's just the size of a few atoms. Now, if we take the split end, we take the finer end, then we find that it is actually smaller than an atom. Smaller than an atom. That's our size. I was trying to get my head around this and thinking, how do I relate to that? Here I am, that tiny, but I'm in this body, which by the same type of measurement of tips of hairs is, millions of tips of hairs in size. And I'm this small, tiny fragment residing in this world. So when we begin to really see who we are and understand our actual position in this unlimited existence, we're just a tiny spark of Krishna. And in that position, we begin to feel humble. We begin to feel wanting to respect everyone and not wanting respect for ourselves. And in this state, we can chant Hare Krishna. And then we come to this platform where we start to give up the desires for Dhanam, Janam, Sundarim, Kavidam. And the desire, the Kamaye. This verse is not without desire. Mahaprabhu uses the term Kamaye Mama. My desire, my Kama. I have the desire. I have a desire. But my desire is to serve you without desire. This is the wonderful paradox, you could say, but that gets reconciled in bhakti. That by our progression of identification, our realization, sambandha, as we get more and more realized in our sambandha, and we follow the activities, the abhideya, to lead us to what is that prayojana, is to become fully satisfied, to satisfy our complete desire, and to be without desire. Because we only desire Krishna. This is the wonderful promise of Bhakti Yoga. So I was reflecting on those connections between the concept of being loyal in Krishna consciousness as opposed to in the material world where loyalty is generally, I mean, we hear about the loyalty of pets, of dogs. Dogs are considered to be the man's best friend because they can be very loyal to their masters. But that loyalty is founded on a relationship of sense gratification. The master pleases his dog. We also want to become dogs for Srila Prabhupada. My dear godbrother, Sridhar Swami, used to have a hat. You can see it still in Juhu. They made us a little memorial with some of his paraphernalia from his life. And he has a little hat of Prabhupada's dog. We want to be like that. We want to be the surrendered, following like little puppy dogs behind our master, Srila Prabhupada, ready to serve him, ready to do whatever he asks, his bidding. That kind of loyalty we want to have to our spiritual masters and to Srila Prabhupada. But that loyalty, we need to refine that loyalty so it becomes based on this principle of a haituki bhakti. Otherwise, when there's some disappointment, and there's bound to be some disappointment in our service, there may be some confusion, there may be some consideration that, well, Srila Prabhupada, you've asked so many things of me, you've asked me to serve this ISKCON, but this ISKCON society has given me so much trouble. I'm sorry, I have to give up. And we leave. A more mundane example would be when we enter into marriages, for example. And when the marriage becomes a little troublesome, and we find people are divorcing, they're leaving, they're giving up. Because their relationship often, and sometimes, it's necessary to give up these relationships because they're obstacles to our higher value, our higher goal. Sometimes this happens, but more than often, it is because of a incompatibility, some sort of problem in the material relationship that causes so much obstacle that we think we can't, we have to give it up. And these are very challenging situations because we have to balance. And this is the issue with loyalty and fidelity. That sometimes we are faced with competing things. And we have to choose what is our loyalty. The foundation of loyalty in Krishna consciousness is our understanding of who we are as the servants of Krishna. If we keep that in the center of our principle of loyalty, our principle of chastity as a devotee, then we will be able to make the right decisions and the right choices when conflicts arise. There are a number of incidents, examples in our Shastra in our tradition and our histories of competing loyalties. One that is perhaps very difficult to understand is the response of Bhishma Dev in the what is it called, the evil assembly, the vicious assembly that attempted to disrobe Draupadi. In that assembly, the principle of dharma became the discussion. What is dharma in this situation? At first there was, Draupadi raised the argument based on dharma, that how is it even possible for Yudhisthira to gamble me away when he has gambled himself away? How, if he's already gambled himself away, what right does he have? And it was Bhishma who responded that, yes, you've raised a very interesting question of dharma, but we have to look at it from this point or from that point. He replied in a very equivocal way, but he was confronted by his dharma based on his loyalty that he had pledged. In America, we used to, I don't think that they do this anymore in America, but when I grew up in primary school, particularly in high school too, when we showed up in our first classroom, it's called the homeroom. Everyone had to come there, and then we would go, more different things would happen. One of the first things we had to do was recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and et cetera, et cetera. They've given this up, I think. But still, there are many occasions where one has to recite, in America, citizens are expected to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. So allegiance, Bhishma had given his allegiance, which is another kind of a synonym or term for loyalty. He pledged his allegiance to Duryodhana, to Dhritarashtra. So he felt on the basis of dharma that I have given my allegiance, I cannot go against this situation. I have to support my liege. The term allegiance comes from the term liege. And in English, we have that, my liege, my lord. It's interesting that we use that term lord throughout, the supreme lord, the Lord. Very common to us in our ISKCON lingo. We talk about the Lord. Who is the Lord? The Lord is the one who we owe our fidelity and loyalty to, in the mundane sense. The Lord is the one who I am bound to, my allegiance, simply by, in the case of the mundane world, simply by the case of one's birth or residence, one becomes bound to, or the liege, the Lord of that area. But we are bound to, we are connected to our Lord because we belong to him. We are his property. This is another way in which we can understand the principle of loyalty, by understanding that we don't have, we have no independence from our Lord. We are his property. We belong to him. And very thankfully, he sees us as being his. And as his, he sees our interest as his interest. So this mutual love is what sustains the relationship of bhakti between the jiva and the supreme Bhagavan. So Bhishma was confronted with this dilemma. He was a devotee of Krishna. He was certainly aware of the relationship between the Pandavas and Draupadi with his Lord Krishna. He must certainly have been aware of how Krishna's desire, and in fact, they didn't observe Krishna. Perhaps I'm not so familiar. Maybe we can hear from anyone who knows whether anyone else in the assembly was able to perceive Krishna's presence in the salvation of Draupadi. I believe no one else except Draupadi was able to understand that Krishna was supplying her with this unlimited law. For everyone else, it was simply a miracle, but a sign that this was not to be. So Bhishma is faced with this dilemma of where is my ultimate loyalty? On the basis of dharma, I have to maintain my loyalty to my liege, my lords, because I have given myself to them. But on the basis of bhakti, my loyalty is to Krishna. What do I do? Here we can only consider the will of Krishna. In this situation, it was Krishna's will that Bhishma's intelligence and his ability to respond, as well as others in the assembly, Dronacharya, could not respond. Vidura responded in a great forceful way, but he had no influence. So that this heinous event would unfold and ultimately bring down the Kaurava dynasty. There are other instances where devotees have switched their loyalty. We have Ravana's brother, Vibhishana, who, faced with the atrocities of his brother, he gave up his loyalty, his family loyalty, to go to Lord Ram. And Ram's response was also very interesting, because we see that others in the assembly were very doubtful. Because in general, for a person, according to Dharma, for a person to give up their loyalty to family is considered to be very adharmic. And so they suspected that it couldn't be real, it couldn't be complete. When push came to shove, when he would be confronted with Ravan, he would not fight. He would be bound by his loyalty, his fidelity to his family. So he couldn't be trusted. But Ram, he responded that by seeing the surrender of Vibhishana, he accepted him and he took him in as now your loyalty has transferred. Your loyalty to your family, your society is gone. And I accept you now and your full loyalty. And he demonstrated complete loyalty to Sri Ram. Speaking of Sri Ram, I was thinking, because the term chastity had been brought up in our last meeting, and I was researching this, and we find that chastity is especially, I think I looked it up here. So here we have in Vanipedia, I was looking, well, is there any term for a chaste husband? And because generally when we always hear about chastity, we hear about how the wives are chaste and devoted to their husbands. And this is the exemplars of chastity are found in the women. and in their relationship with their husbands. Of course, we also find in the case of Ram, his chastity, because he had that vow, only one wife. And when it came to protecting her, nothing could stand in the way. He remained chaste and faithful to his wife, just as she did to him. I also found it interesting that to see how if we look at here all the different references to chaste ladies and so on, that we find that by the force of their chastity, they gain the results of their husband's activities. So this is another element of the concept of loyalty and fidelity and chastity in relationship of the devotee with the Lord, is that as the devotee submits and surrenders, gives up that independence and becomes fully the loyal, faithful servant, then Krishna says that he takes care. He takes care. Therefore, in Gita, when he instructs us, Sarva dharmam parityaja, give up the other forms of loyalty, the religious loyalties that you may have. Give up all of those kinds of dharma. The kind of dharma that Bhishma was so bound by.
Have we been disconnected from Pancarratna Prabhu? Or am I the only one who's not hearing?
We are disconnected,
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna,
Okay, he's
yesterday
back.
there was some problem in my internet,
Okay.
and the power went off just now, and the internet went off, and I went off.
You're back.
Now I'm back, and I have a different connection, which I hope will stay. Can you hear me okay? It's all right? Okay. All right?
Yes, Prabhuji.
I don't know where where I stopped, but as I kind of, the flow of it was that we were talking about Dharma, and we were talking about Bhagavad Gita 1866, Sarva Dharma Parityaja. We were talking about Krishna's protection and how Krishna takes on, so that when we become the loyal servants of Krishna, then Krishna takes care of everything. This is the conviction that underlies the loyalty and fidelity of the devotee. Now, we have just a bit more time, and I thought it would be good to bring this back to seeing the example of this in Srila Prabhupada. How Srila Prabhupada exhibited his loyalty to his spiritual master his fidelity to the mission as given by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, was exhibited also in the sense of being always under his protection. Srila Prabhupada used to comment that he never felt alone. He always felt that his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, was always with him. He's also given us that assurance that he is with us. Krishna has given us the assurance. He is always with us. Bhaktaram Jagyatabasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suritam Sarvabhutam Yatpamam Shantivirshi. That when we see, when we know, when we experience, we realize that Krishna, he is residing with us in our hearts as a Sugrid, the greatest friend. Then we willingly surrender and give our loyalty to him. We were commenting how that loyalty that Srila Prabhupada had, how it has played out in the movement as well. Particularly, just yesterday I was talking with one gentleman who is looking to write a history of ISKCON. And we were talking about what has sustained ISKCON. And I was thinking about how it's Srila Prabhupada's loyalty, our loyalty to Srila Prabhupada, and his loyalty to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta that has created the institutional framework that has been able to withstand the internal dynamics that will naturally come about when you bring tens of thousands of people together with different minds and ideas, etc. There'll be different viewpoints. There'll be different perspectives. And to reconcile this, some sort of framework is needed, some sort of institution is needed. And Srila Prabhupada created an institution, the ISKCON institution, based on this principle of collegial management and organization that he learned and imbibed from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. From the very beginning, observing that when that principle is given up, that principle of collegial management and governance, naturally things will fall apart. It's just the way of the world. And he saw this happen in the Gaudiya mission. So being very conscious of this and being loyal to Bhaktisiddhanta, from the very beginning, he was nurturing this spirit of collegial governance by creating the Governing Body Commission, by establishing the autonomy, the limited autonomy of the individual centers, but bringing them together to cooperate, creating various mechanisms where there was sufficient independence to drive that spirit of innovation and creativity, along with the foundation of shared loyalty to a shared vision, to a shared connection with Srila Prabhupada. So he, in fact, we were speaking about allegiance, that Srila Prabhupada introduced just in the years before, in 1975, I think it was. He introduced in the society an oath of allegiance. He wanted at least the officers, the leaders of ISKCON, to declare their allegiance, declare their loyalty in writing, signed. He required that. It is still a requirement till this day for the officers of ISKCON to declare to their oath of allegiance, and that oath is basically that this is ISKCON's. It's not mine. The basic principle of that oath is to declare that in my service, when I serve the society, when I serve the mission of Srila Prabhupada, I should never think that anything that I have created or that seems to come from my efforts in the society belongs to me. It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to ISKCON. It belongs to Srila Prabhupada. I am his servant. This is a corollary of the principle of a Haituki bhakti in loyal devotional service. The sense of being the caretaker, the steward. Srila Prabhupada gave the example of the teller in the bank who can handle hundreds of thousands of dollars, but never thinks that the money belongs to him or her. So in that same way, when we engage in devotional service in a Haituki, then we are seeing ourselves as being the servants of Krishna. Whatever comes through our service belongs to Krishna. So that is the sense that we have to incorporate loyalty in our relationship with ISKCON. And we should incorporate that in the sense also of being patient and being loyal despite the problems. There is a story that I think it's in Trafalgar Square in London, there where the column, Nelson's column, is there, and there's some inscription to the effect that England or Britain, with all your faults, I love thee. You know, I'm loyal with all your faults. And the story goes that Srila Prabhupada said that or saw that and said, ISKCON, with all, so I love ISKCON. So that needs to be our spirit. Loyalty to the institution, loyalty to Srila Prabhupada. But our loyalty to the institution needs to be balanced with the sense that the institution itself is simply a tool given by Srila Prabhupada. It is in and of itself, it's not like it's a living entity, although it sometimes appears to act like one. But no, it is a tool, a property, a mechanism that Srila Prabhupada created. It belongs to him as he belongs as in his service to the parampara. And we are simply stewards of that as an association to serve Srila Prabhupada as his devoted, loyal servants, to take care of this ISKCON that he created, and to keep using it to serve his mission and the mission of the acharyas. So we have a few more minutes. I thought that would be some additional reflections to see the connection between loyalty and the principle of a Haituki bhakti in Krishna consciousness, and to also connect it with the sense of going beyond the loyalties of this world that is represented by Shri Krishna when he says Sarva Dharma Parityajya, to give up those loyalties and to accept this singular loyalty as part of Krishna, knowing that our self-interest is to be without self-interest and to be only interested in Krishna and what he desires. So, thank you, Hare Krishna. If there are some questions or comments, I can try to answer.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dandavad Pranam.
I think you have to, if you have some question. I see here a hand raised from
Yes.
Stotra Mala Das, I think that is,
Yes, Dasi.
and also
And
Rajeshwar Goranga. So I don't know whether you just unmute yourself and ask a question or make a comment or give a reflection, add
yeah,
something.
yes, Prabhuji. So when you said about our
I
fidelity or
can't hear
loyalty,
you, Stotra Mala. You're muted.
no, I have opened it.
No, I still can't hear. Oh, I know why. Because my speaker is off. So give me a second. That's another thing that, okay, I should be able to hear you now. Try again.
Hare Krishna,
Yeah.
Prabhuji.
Okay.
Dandavat Pranam. I am Madhukar Prabhu. Prabhuji, you said about fidelity to Lord is our what you call basic should be our basic aim or trait. I am reminded of colonial India, which was administered by representative of British throne. He was, of course, by designation, he was a viceroy, but he was addressed as the Lord Curzon, Lord Mayo, Lord Mountbatten, etc. So they were lords for us during colonial India. So just a reflection on this thing. So
Yes, they were tiny lords. Tiny lords. But we are concerned with the Lord, the one, the real Lord of everything. But we also, because we think we are the lords. What's in that term? I'm the Lord of all I survey, right? That's the materialistic mentality, that we identify ourselves with being the lords. But we have to give up that sense and surrender to the one Lord, Shri Krishna.
thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So, Rajeshwara, you had your hand up.
Hare Krishna,
Yes.
Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So, what is the main element to have loyalty to a person? What is the main? Is that faith or something else, Prabhuji? What is the conclusion, Prabhuji?
Well, what I was trying to bring out is that the fundamental basis in Krishna consciousness of our loyalty is understanding who we are in relationship to that person. So similarly, it's the same in the material sphere. One becomes loyal to one's parents or because of a relationship. Because I see myself as son or daughter of parents, so I become loyal to them. I see myself as a citizen of a particular country, I become loyal to my country. I see myself as a consumer of a particular product, and I become loyal to that brand. So it's my sense of relationship with that person or institution or whatever that invokes my sense of loyalty. So it's when we see ourselves as parts and parcels of Krishna, when we identify ourselves with the parts and parcels of Krishna, and as the servants of Krishna, then naturally our loyalty begins to awaken to Krishna. Unfortunately, in our current state, we identify ourselves with our bodies and our minds and our material desires. So then our loyalty is on that, and then we see ourselves as being the center of everything. So the foundation of developing loyalty towards Krishna, which is in a sense, it's bhakti. I mean, the term loyalty means bhakti, means to develop and awaken our understanding of who we are.
Prabhuji, so sometimes neophyte devotee, when he comes, he gets knowledge from some devotees. So then from one particular devotee, so generally we see that loyalty develops there. So, and after a while, when that neophyte devotee finds some faults in that devotee, so that is why loyalty is gradually decreases. So in this case, what is the solution, in that relationship between the disciple and some shiksha gurus, something or counselors, so what is the solution regarding this?
Well, we always have to maintain our hierarchy of loyalty, right? So our fundamental loyalty, primary loyalty, is always to Sri Krishna and to his representatives. So Krishna himself and those who purely represent him, just like the teller in the bank or the postmaster or whatever, who are the transparent, we consider them to be transparent via medias. Like the Viceroy the example was given here, that the Viceroy, although is not in and of himself would be the Lord, but because of being the designated representative, one can offer loyalty to the king or queen in that instance through the Viceroy. So similarly, but the foundation is our connection with Krishna. So when we keep our foundation, keep our connection with Krishna in the center, and then we see everything else in relationship to that. In relationship to, so how our relationships are in sync with Krishna. Now, that can get sometimes challenging because we're not connected with Krishna directly. We are only we are, but we are not able to experience it. And so we need the help of Krishna outside, the external manifestation of Krishna in the form of Guru. And he manifests himself as Guru in different ways. And sometimes he may manifest himself through an individual, and then that individual becomes less transparent, less of a via media, and we lose faith in that particular individual. But that's okay, sometimes. We have to analyze, is this the individual? Is it real, or is it me that is finding fault because I can't understand something? And then we have to resort, we have to go to pray, and especially if that is a very senior Vaishnava, and we're finding some fault, we're finding some difficulty, and we're disagreeing in our minds with what they're saying, and we think, oh, this is not right. But they're very senior, and they're very, elevated, and we're very neophyte. And then we have to consider, is this simply my inability to understand things, and I'm looking at things from a material perspective, and I'm finding fault? So that requires introspection and consultation with others, and prayer for Krishna in our hearts. Dadami buddhi yogam tam. Krishna gives us the intelligence by which we can understand where there is a real fault or problem, or where it's in our minds. So this is not something to be taken lightly. And in any case, no matter what our conclusion is, we always maintain respect. We always maintain respectful. And we may also have to come to a place where to agree to disagree. That because we're free individuals, we have different opinions on things. So I don't know if that answered your question, but I hope it may have answered.
Thank you so much, Prabhupada. And we always take examples of yours, the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. You are so inspiration for us and so exemplary. So please bless us.
I don't know. You have to. Something has to happen after 50 years. I guess you do. Something may rub off if you stick with it, even if you're a rascal like me.
No. So please bless us so that we can have this quality to be loyal to Srila Prabhupada more and more. Thank you very much for your wonderful classes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol. So I think we're out of time, but I leave it. There's one. I think if there's any other, whoever is in charge of the time can tell us what to do.
Please accept my humble obeisances. Sometime is seen that there is some class, or class means like, devotees are more inclined to their initiating gurus and counselors and Shiksha gurus, but they ignore the interest of the movement as a body. Because the our movement and Srila Prabhupada is the center of the whole institution, but that is being neglected in this pursuit. The other things becomes prominent.
Hare Krishna. Mahashringa, I think this is Mahashringa from Kukatpally.
Yes, Prabhuji,
I
Dandavat Pranam.
please accept my obeisances.
Please accept my Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Dandavat.
Yeah, this is a challenge for devotees as we, in our particularly in our neophyte stage or at any point, we may face the dilemma or the tendency to place our devotion and our connection with our specific gurus as a higher priority than our service to the society. I would venture to say, and I think this you'll find this in 100% of the cases, that our gurus will disagree with us in such cases. That our gurus are going to tell us, if we were to ask them, they would say, you're wrong. You shouldn't be doing that. You have to serve the society. You have to serve the mission. If you want to please me, you serve the society, you serve the mission. Don't get confused that between these two things, that your loyalty to me as your guru is somehow different than your loyalty to the institution, because I am loyal to the institution. I am a part of this institution. So it's natural, if you want to, to maintain your loyalty, your fidelity, your connection with me, then you have to be connected with the institution, because that's what we are. And the institution, as I said, it's a tool, it's a service, it's a platform to serve the mission of our next level of loyalty, which is to Srila Prabhupada. So we are all, our loyalty to our gurus is our channel for our loyalty to Srila Prabhupada. And there should be no difference. There should be no idea that there's a difference between being loyal to Srila Prabhupada and being loyal to our gurus and being loyal to Srila Prabhupada's institution. They are the same. And sometimes if we find that, well, we don't like what the institution is doing, because our gurus may also don't like, sometimes our gurus themselves are critical of things that are going on in the institution. And maybe they give us examples from Srila Prabhupada. They say, well, Srila Prabhupada wouldn't like this. It's not his desire. This is not his intention. It shouldn't be like this. And this is this is the challenge that we have, to try to collaboratively figure out how to keep working together, even if we find some differences, but always trying to bring that this is the oneness, the unity in diversity. Srila Prabhupada stressed this, that we have to somehow keep that bundle of sticks together, not that the sticks merge and become, lose their individuality, but we maintain our individuality. We even grow little branches here and there, or whatever, that may look at this way or that way, but we're still connected to one root. We're still on one trunk, and we have to maintain that. As soon as we cut ourselves off from the trunk, which is our sampradaya, our parampara, then we'll wither and we'll die, you see. So the institution is not the trunk. The trunk is the parampara. The trunk is our connection with Srila Prabhupada through our directly and through our various gurus. But because it's the desire of our gurus and Srila Prabhupada to use and to spread Krishna consciousness systematically through an institute, by using this institutional framework, to give it up is, or to somehow, you know, withdraw or withhold our support means to withhold our loyalty, withhold our fidelity to our Guru Parampara. We should never see a difference. Does that answer your question? I mean, it's not, sometimes it's hard because
No, it
to
is especially
harmonize, but
in
we
the
must do
young
this. We
generation.
must harmonize.
It is seen in the new generation now. You know, these things are popping up, and you know, they are acting individually.
It is you know, there's some immaturity because
Yes.
we get a direct sort of energy from our gurus that you don't get from the impersonal framework of the institution. But as we grow and we understand the desire of our gurus, then we understand that the institution is not different from that.
True. Thank you.
So I think we're way over time. So
I would
Thank
like to make a comment.
thank you.
Can you hear me? I would like to make a comment. Yes. Okay. That yes. What Mahashringa Prabhu was pointing out, unfortunately, is quite rampant, and in general, that is why education is very important. Systematic education, which Srila Prabhupada wanted for all the devotees, and a systematic education which includes instructing the devotees about the nature of the parampara, the nature of ISKCON, the identity of Srila Prabhupada as the founder Acharya, and the root of everything that, all the preaching that is now going on, and the relative positions of all the different members of the society and so on. We need that education. And through the study of Srila Prabhupada books, people can become, loyal to Srila Prabhupada because they get a direct benefit from studying his books. And we see too many times that this is not being done. You know, the backed-up programs are not very alive these days, and education needs to be there, and education has to be given by people who have this vision of loyalty to the parampara, to Srila Prabhupada, and who understand the importance of remaining united. So I would encourage all the devotees. That's why we are having these value classes, and that's why we are having, even in the beginning of the Bhakti Shastri course, we speak a lot about this, how we have to have an allegiance to Srila Prabhupada. It's the foundation of the health of the Hare Krishna movement, or of ISKCON, as in terms of being a preaching movement. And a second comment I wanted to make is regarding the fact that we cannot all agree, even though all the members of ISKCON, or many of our leaders, are loyal to Srila Prabhupada, but according to their own natures, according to their own level of advancement in Krishna consciousness, and so on, they actually pick up different parts of Srila Prabhupada's instructions, and they emphasize that. And sometimes it seems that how can we remain united? Because sometimes we see that really people have very diverging opinions regarding how to apply the philosophy that Prabhupada has given us. So I wanted to comment on that first of all, this is an instruction that Srila Prabhupada himself has given to the GBC body, and which can be also taken at all different levels by the devotees, is to constantly, Prabhupada said yearly at all the meetings of the GBCs, one topic has to be unity in diversity. how we can remain united and at the same time acknowledge the diversity. Because due to our different natures and due to our different levels of advancement in Krishna consciousness, we cannot understand these books all in the same way. So, and one of the suggestions or instructions that Prabhupada gave was, this is for the really like future great development of ISKCON, is he said to study the Catholic Church structure and how this movement, the Catholic Church, has survived for over 2,000 years now. And one of the ways that they have survived is by allowing diversity, by creating different orders um, in their components. So you will find in the Catholic Church that there will be certain orders. It's called orders, meaning some sections following a particular leadership that will be very conservative in terms of their dress, in terms of their practices. For example, they'll pray in Latin. So there will be some orders that are very, very conservative in that way. There will be some orders which are more renounced. There will be some orders which are more open to the world and are more actively preaching and merging with the people, and all of them are united under the Pope, and all of them have an allegiance to the Bible, to everything. They all have basic allegiance to certain principles, which makes them Catholic Christians. But there is a broad variety in the way that they are living their, would you say, their Christian life. So Prabhupada actually said that we could study that and try to see, how, because in the future, some people want to establish farms without electricity, and they want the kids to get married at 5 years old. And, there is this, and then there are some people who say that we don't need to dress the way Srila Prabhupada said, and we can preach, in a different way. There are so many different tendencies, and it's not that these people are not in allegiance with Srila Prabhupada. They are loyal to Srila Prabhupada, but they are applying according to time, place, circumstance, and according to their,
Understanding.
personal understanding and so on. So we have to find the common points, and we have to allow that variety, and we have to allow that the many people who join ISKCON, they are also of very different natures. And some people will love the concept of being very close to the Manu Samhita. And some people will, on the other hand, not like that at all, and will love the concept of as some very, what do you say, like chanting, for example, just being focused on chanting and just being focused on some of the on remembering Krishna, just chanting and not being bothered by so many social values which may not reflect the society of today and are very difficult to introduce. So we have to allow for that, because otherwise there is danger of split, which you said that the split is very dangerous. So we must not split. We must remain as a bundle of stick. But each and every stick may have its own characteristic. And that will make the movement even more attractive, because people who are by nature of a certain type, they will join certain communities which are of that type, and others who have a different nature will join other communities. But all of them will be worshiping the deity, and all of them will be chanting Hare Krishna, and all of them will be reading Prabhupada's books, and all of them will be offering prasadam, and all of them will have as their goal somehow either, to go back to Godhead. So we have to identify a very broad base on which we can be united, so
Well-
that we can maintain our allegiance to the parampara, to Srila Prabhupada. And when we talk of the parampara, we really talk of Srila Prabhupada, because he made it very clear that he is the founder acharya of ISKCON, and whatever the parampara is what he has given, in one sense, because he has preached for the modern age, and he has preached for the age of Kali. So what his instructions are, we try to follow that. But unfortunately, because we have colored glasses of different types, we may not all agree on what's
No, but
the way
yeah,
to apply.
So I think we're out of time.
yeah,
At least I
Yeah,
am.
yes.
So I'm going to have to take your leave. I want to thank you very much for the opportunity to speak here and talk about a subject which is, I think, important for all of us. I hope everyone has learned something. I certainly have. And maybe we'll do this again.
Hare
Okay,
Krishna,
thank you so
Pancarratna
much.
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Jai Shri Prabhupada. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Thank you.
Wishing you a good day.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.